Welcome, Maziar, to the podcast. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Nice to be here.
I would love to know, are you well, actually?
I think I'm getting better every day. I think wellness means that you're comfortable with yourself, that you're comfortable in your skin, that you're confident about your abilities, confident about who you are, and also that your body copes well with your uh, soul and your mind. So I think I'm getting better every day, but also I always admire imperfection. So I think by accepting imperfection, I think I'm getting better because I know that I cannot be perfect ever. I cannot be really well. And that's why I think the reason for being satisfied with yourself to a certain extent, being confident. Because I think if when people think about perfection individually and when societies strive for perfection, there's always disappointment. There are always situations where people can take advantage of you or people in a society. So I think we have to always accept or imperfection, get better, but know that you can never be perfect.
Yeah.
So to give you a very long answer to your short
No,
question.
it's great. I love a long answer. I love it. Detail is wonderful. And would you say then that that really beautiful definition of wellness, do you think that kind of maybe how wellness is sold to us is that perfectionism? And do you think that's where it's like a losing battle, if you like, to be perfectly well? It's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think perfection has become a marketing commodity. And it's not something recent. Just look at the classic portraits of different individuals throughout history. Look at the bodies that different artists created, sculpted, painted. So that was that the marketing for perfection. And also religions, I think they use perfection as a way to hook people and to sell them what they want to sell.
Mm.
And I think some religions, they are like corporations and they have their clients, they're selling them a product. And, some of them, especially in the US, they are more shameless about it. They just
Mm.
ask for money up front. When you look at the evangelists on television in the US, it's, if you give us $10, $100, $1,000, you can become a perfect person. So I think perfection is being sold as a way to as a marketing tool, is being used as a marketing tool. And no, because you're a yoga teacher, I think yoga institutions, yoga classes, and this is something that we've talked before uh, privately, that I think that the yoga classes and yoga institutions in general, they are using perfection as a way to market themselves, and that is not a very good marketing tool for yoga classes, because someone like me who has a very stiff body, and I didn't do any yoga for 5 decades of my life, and my body is really not very flexible. I was always kind of hesitant to start yoga because I could see the images that were marketed by yoga classes of almost perfect bodies of young people, very slim, very flexible, doing like all these weird yoga poses with weird names. And I knew that I could not do that. And I think yoga classes and yoga teachers and yoga institutions, they really have to review the way that they are marketing their product, which is yoga, which is something that you can use in your daily life, whatever age you are, and you can become healthy through doing that, healthy mind, healthy body.
Mm.
And also the other thing about the way that the yoga classes use these perfect images to market themselves is that many people with money who can afford yoga classes are older people like me,
Yeah, it's true.
are hesitant, by these classes, and they look at these classes with a bit of trepidation. And the younger people who don't have the money, they cannot afford it, and they may
It's
see
so true.
themselves. So I think it's just, I think perfection is really an abstract concept
Totally.
that can be used for marketing and can be used for hooking people into doing something and manipulating people in general.
Yeah. And can I ask, Maziar, so after you say many decades of not being put off of yoga, what tipped you out? What kind of what's the word? Like what encouraged you? What did you just decide?
Mm,
Were you like, I'm gonna see what it's like anyway? Or was there like a
sure.
particular like ad you saw, or was there a teacher you saw?
No, it was just by chance. I've been running a lot, and especially during the pandemic, I ran almost every day. I ran the minimum of 10 kilometers every day, and a couple of days a week, I used to run 15 to 20 kilometers. So, but stupidly, I never did any kind of stretching, and I didn't do any kind of exercise after my runs.
Hmm.
So I really last year I really felt that my body was so stiff and so inflexible that I didn't know what to do. And a friend of mine, one of my colleagues, he told me about try yoga, and he gave me a card, as a gift card. He said,
Oh, nice.
just go and try it. And again, I approached try yoga with trepidation, and I didn't want to do that, but I knew that I needed something, some sort of exercise besides running. And
Mm.
yoga was what I was looking for. And I really gotten into it. And the way I look at it is that I ignore everyone in the class. I don't mind, that there is a very young girl who is doing, 180 degrees, what you call it, like when they spread
The
their legs, the
splits.
split, yeah, the
Yeah.
split, or when they stand on their hands or whatever. I'm not into that. The way I look at it is that next year I will be more flexible than I am now.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do yoga, I would be less flexible than this year. So I'm just looking at it,
Yeah.
as a day-to-day exercise. And I think that's my philosophy. And also, whatever I've done, it's taken me 10 years to do something well. And I just started yoga, 6, 7 months ago. So I've given myself 10 years to get better at yoga.
Good for you. I mean, I'm always, I think that's music to my ears because I'm always telling anyone in class like it's a lifelong practice. So you don't need to rush. You certainly don't need to push your body because people get injured. So that's great. Like I wish everyone had that approach. And it's part of the teaching of yoga to be patient. And would you say as well that you see the marketing of yoga, do you find that actually if you can, when you get past that, the reality in the room is different?
The reality in the room for many people is different because you see people of different ages in yoga classes, and they're doing things according to their abilities, but also it depends on the teachers as well.
Of course.
There are teachers who are more spiritual, there are teachers who are less communicative, there are teachers who are more athletic. So I think the best yoga practice is when what you want as a yoga practitioner meets the offering by the yoga teacher.
Hmm.
And when you click, and that can be a perfect yoga experience. And for different people, it can mean different. If
Absolutely.
there's a very young person who is very flexible and wants to do these really extraordinary moves and goes to a class with a teacher who wants to teach that, that's a perfect match.
Yeah.
But it's just that you have to try it. You have to try different teachers. And I think of yoga as a new language.
Hmm.
And when you're learning language, for example, if I start to learn Russian tomorrow, I won't be able to study, to read Dostoevsky. I have, I mean, at best, within 3 months, I can read the Russian version of Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
And then, I have to give myself maybe 10 years in order to read Dostoevsky and enjoy it.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with yoga, that when you start yoga, you have to take it step by step, and you have to first enjoy, simple moves, and then you make it a little bit more complicated, and then you think about it. And what I think about yoga as well, it may not be appreciated by many yoga practitioners and yoga teachers, is that I think you have to be comfortable with the physical moves first, and then think about the spirituality behind it.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't work the other way around, because if you cannot get over the physical boundaries, and you cannot do the uh, physical moves, then it's very difficult to understand the spirituality behind it. Again, it's the same language. If you don't know the Cyrillic alphabet, and you don't know the Russian words, then you cannot even enjoy Peppa Pig. You cannot, let alone Chekhov
Yeah.
or Dostoevsky. So I think it's the language. It's the
Mm.
you have to be comfortable with the tools, with
Yeah.
the language, and then start
Yeah.
getting more from it. You're getting the more spiritual
Mm.
understanding of yoga.
I would be inclined to agree, and I think a lot of people who come to, we're so in this modern world, we're so busy in our minds anyway. We kind of need to be put in our bodies by some intense sensations, of hopefully not too intense, but you kind of need that, don't you, to just get into the body, and then you start to understand. I think that's why it is, isn't it? It's kind of just putting you in your body as opposed to in your too much in your
Well,
mind.
yeah, that's why I like you as a teacher, but I think some teachers are too spiritual for starters. I
Mm,
think if you market your class as, meditation class or a more spiritual class, that's fine. But when you have a open yoga class, open
mm,
vinyasa class, then I think it would be a little bit of too much of imposition on the students, especially the new students, if you talk
yeah,
more about the spiritual aspect of it. I mean, in my case, it's like that, but maybe
yeah.
some people, they join yoga classes because of the spiritual content.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to hear. And I think, yeah, there's a way, because I love the spiritual side of yoga, but there is a way, I think I've found in my experience, that a way to get it to people, and it's not always just telling them straight off the bat. It's kind of, there's a little gateway. So you've mentioned yoga a lot. Is there anything else you do that's like a kind of that really keeps you well day to day, week to week?
Well, I think it's just being curious about the world. Try to read as much as possible, to watch as many films as much as possible, to travel as much as possible, to talk to as many people as possible. And I think that's what keeps me sane and keeps me interesting for myself,
Mm,
because I'm finding new things about myself. I'm finding new things about my past. That's
mm,
interesting for me, and I think it's just thinking about issues, and always try to get out of your comfort zone. That keeps you really alive and keeps you healthy in a sense.
mm.
Especially, I think we are going through a very turbulent time in human history because of the new technology, because of the new economic realities. And many people are forced to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And people are fired from their jobs. Many
Mm.
people, they are asked by their employers to learn new skills. Things are moving from analog to digital. People cannot use diesel cars or petrol cars. They have to use battery operated cars.
Mm.
So we are going through a lot of change. And I think the pace of technology is much faster than the ability of um, spiritual and physical ability of human beings.
Yeah.
So you have to really practice being out of your comfort zone all the time. Otherwise, you will be really disappointed, especially I think for younger people. I really don't envy younger people because they are going through so much at this point in their lives with the barrage of information, with all the changes that go around them. I think we will see a very troubled future generation if we
Yeah.
don't take care of them right now, because the pace of events is much faster. It's like being on an airplane all the time,
Mm.
and you know how it feels being on the airplane, for a 8-hour flight or a 12-hour flight. When you get out of it, it's just your body is exhausted because your body is not made to be on a fast airplane like that.
Yeah.
So I think being regularly out of your comfort zone, that is very important. And for whatever reason, I've always been out of my comfort zone one way or another since at least age 18, when I left Iran and I migrated to Pakistan and then to Canada and came
Mm.
here, travels, work, and all that. I've always been out of my, and also it's always helped me in a sense, especially in like very difficult situations, to have experienced a lot of things, to know different things, to have seen a lot of films and to have read many books. And also I think sense of humor is very important,
Yeah.
not to take things seriously and always look at everything in a, with a pinch of salt, and
Yeah.
look at the lighter side of everything. So, and sometimes, I'm criticized that, why I'm making light of some situation, especially in private conversation. I don't do it publicly in private conversation, but I think that is what makes life, bearable
Yep.
for me and for many other people. When you
Yeah.
look at some of the most horrible tragedies in the human history, like the Holocaust,
Mm.
or the suffering of the LGBTQ community, there are many Holocaust jokes that only survivors of the Holocaust can relate to, or there are many gay jokes or lesbian jokes that the LGBTQ community can
Mm.
relate to. But I think, and that is what makes life really bearable for people. I think having a sense of humor is really important.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, yeah. I mean, would you say,
You have a good sense of humor.
yeah, do you think? Well, I try. I like laughing at other people. I'm not sure I'm that funny, but I was going to ask you, do you think that you're finding the humor in things was maybe most tested in your time when you were put in solitary confinement back in?
Oh, definitely. I think when I was in solitary confinement for 107 days
Bloody hell.
back in 2009, sense of humor really helped me because I saw the ignorant and stupid side of the interrogator and the interrogation, and I was taking mental notes. So when I came out of prison, I wrote a 10,000 word article for Newsweek magazine, and a lot of that came through that article, which became a book and then eventually film. So I think that really, especially in prison, I think sense of humor really helped me. And also, as I mentioned, the books that I had read, the films that I had watched, the music that I knew, that was like an internal universe for me that
Mm,
I could always go to when I was under a lot of physical and mental pressure. And especially when you're in solitary confinement,
mm,
it means that solitary confinement basically means that they want to deprive you of all your senses. You cannot see anything uh, besides the walls that surround you. You cannot touch anything besides that wall, you cannot hear anything. So you're really deprived of your senses. And in a sense, solitary confinement is, I think, is the worst form of torture.
yeah.
Like sometimes, when I was in solitary confinement for 2 weeks, 3 weeks in a row without getting out of the cell, I just wanted to go to the interrogation room, even though I knew that I would be slapped or I would be punched or whatever. I wanted to get out of that situation. So I think having that sense of humor, having that internal universe that you can go to, you can listen to the music that you can
Mm,
review the films or the books that
mm.
you've read or watched. That is very important.
Wow. Because I mean, obviously, as you say, being in solitary confinement, which you were, if I'm correct, were you put in because you were accused of spying?
I was a journalist in Iran, working for Newsweek magazine and Channel 4 News here. And I was accused of spying, but they had other plans. They had other reasons. Because I was a journalist and a filmmaker, they wanted to teach a lesson to many journalists and
Mm.
filmmakers by arresting
So
me.
to make an example
Exactly, to
of you,
make an
yeah.
example of me. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's interesting what you say about as I was saying, like, it is the worst form of torture. This was in 2009.
9.
So this was, I mean, social media existed, but it wasn't the beast.
Yeah, so yeah, it was the beginning of Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Because
was
I'm
the
just, yeah.
era that, you remember MySpace. MySpace was
Yeah.
moving
Mhm.
Facebook and
Yeah.
Twitter at that time. Yeah.
I ask because I'm thinking, something that I think one thing I think social media and the immediacy of having everything on your phone has done is made people not very resilient with their own being
Mm,
like people can't, and it's not just young people, it's you notice people can't, and I notice it myself, people can't sit still without a screen anymore. So
yeah, sure.
I can only imagine, I mean, it's awful anyway, but it must, that solitary confinement would really challenge someone today because they're like, what do I do without the stimulus?
Exactly. Without
Got to
that,
make
maybe
it
it would
yourself.
be worse for me if I went to prison right now, because I always use my phone for work, for socializing, for
Mm,
organizing my life, but especially for work because I have a lot of people that I need to communicate with on a regular basis. And
mm,
yeah, so my smartphone is an extension of my hand basically.
yeah.
But I think what social media has also done is that it has, unlike what we expected from social media, it has really limited our comfort zone, and it has created so many echo chambers that you feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
And that's by design. It's not accidental that, if you watch two videos by a liberal politician, the third video that suggested to you is also by a liberal politician, and vice versa. If you're watching two videos by Trump, the third one would be something that's by someone like Trump or someone close to Trump. So I think that has really made people less resilient because you feel comfortable in this virtual reality. This is not reality, of course. You have virtual friends who you don't know, who can just abandon you at any point.
Mm,
You feel comfortable in this echo chamber of ideas
mm,
that you cannot just see beyond that. And they're just so fragile in a sense as well, that people's comfort zones have become so fragile And that's
Mm.
why I really, really worry about the future of my daughter and her generation, because they are digital natives and they look at TikTok and they look at Instagram and they have friends on it. They see their image, they're inspired by the people who are on TikTok and Instagram. And in a sense, we really have to take care of their mental resilience much more than the older people.
Yeah.
So I think that the people in primary school and in high schools, they are in much more vulnerable state of
Mm.
mind than, let's say, the World War II veterans or
Yeah. Yeah,
older
yeah, yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can ask, Mazia, how do you, because you're, how old is your daughter?
She's going to be 14 in October.
So how do you approach that with her as a parent?
Well, I try to expose her to as many experiences as I can, to as many ideas as I can, to as many books or films, even though, she may not read them, even though she may not watch them, but still I try to talk to her. And she's going to a good school that that the teachers, they take care of that as well.
Mm.
But at the same time, at home, I try to expose her to different ideas. And the fact that I am different, that I'm different from many of the parents that she knows of, and my wife is different to a certain extent. So that helps her to a certain extent, I can say. But I think exposing her to different ideas, even though she may not consume them immediately, that's very important.
That's really good. Yeah, so you almost you can kind of like try and crowd out a little bit what she's consuming.
Exactly. So I try to talk to her about TikTok, or what she sees on TikTok, or not Instagram much these days, but
Mm.
Snapchat, and try to maybe infuse a little bit of content, a different content here and there,
Mm.
and to make her to be a little bit more curious about the world, because I think lack of curiosity is really the source of many biases, many ideas like xenophobia,
Mm.
anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, because people are just not interested to know another person. When you've never met a Muslim in your life, and when you are not even curious to know a Muslim, then you become an Islamophobic,
Mm.
because you see Muslim on on 6 o'clock news, on nightly news, and you think that all Muslims they're like that. It's the same thing with anti-Semitism. Most anti-Semitic people that I've met in my life, they've never met even a single Jew, and
Mm.
they become anti-Semitic because they're not even curious. So I think infusing this curiosity in your children and future generation, that's very important. That's was something else that I do, which really makes me happy. We are involved in a project called Paint the Change, and we
Yes.
work with schools and we work with young people to teach them about different issues through art
Mm.
and through social media. And that is something that I think that really gives me peace. And I'm really happy with that work. That's like a break for me from other work that I do, which has to
Mm.
do with, you know, killings and serious
Mm.
political,
Mm.
terrorism, serious political content, etc.
So you that just brings a little bit of lightness at least to
That brings me a little bit of hope. That's put some light, some glimmer light at the end of the tunnel, because
Mm.
in my other work, it's usually the tunnel at the end of the light. As soon as we see a little bit of the light, then there's an obstacle, there's misery, and
Mm.
so I think especially in the profession that I have, as a journalist and documentary filmmaker talking about social and political issues,
Mm.
we really have to try hard in order to be able to have a more optimistic outlook at life,
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
universe. Yeah.
It can't just be doom and gloom. Obviously, not, you don't want to bypass the seriousness of the things that are going on in the world, but at the
Yeah,
same time,
because that's I think that's somehow part of my character and my life that, I have to think about these serious issues and I have to do something serious about this serious problem. But there has to be always a light touch to
yeah.
whatever you do. And also, that's what I was telling you about imperfection, that, you always know that this film that I'm making, the article that I'm writing, the speech that I'm giving is not perfect. And I have to be open about that.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. That's so great. That really ties in with what you said about getting out of comfort zones, because I think a lot
Yeah,
of people maybe don't get out of their comfort zone because they are obsessed with this idea of a perfect product when, as you
exactly.
say, you kind of just got to do it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also I think the older you get, you have to communicate your ideas better, and you have to be able to express yourself better. You have to be able to be more comfortable with your own ideas in order to be
Mm,
more comfortable with other people. I think that also gives you this inner peace
mm,
and wellness that we were talking about,
mm,
because I think when you are not really convinced of your ideas, that you're not always 100% certain about the validity of your ideas,
mm.
and you know that you should not be 100% certain about something, then I think that's a relief, because you don't have that pressure anymore. uh,
Yeah.
that's why, that's again, that's something in my conversation with my daughter, with other young people, I emphasize that, say whatever you want. People make mistakes, and, you can just correct it. And also, nothing is the end of the world except for the end of the world.
It's great
You're making
advice.
a mistake, if you're failing, if people are laughing at what you're saying or writing or wearing, don't worry about it. Next time you do it better. As Samuel Beckett says, fail better. So,
Yeah.
that's the idea.
Do you chalk a lot of that attitude up to the fact that you have been in some very, very serious situations in your life? Um,
Maybe. Yeah, I think that's true. And certain situations I think I've been thrown into.
yeah.
Like, for example, I did not choose to be born in Iran. I was born in Iran, and then a revolution happened, then a war happened. So those were not my choices.
No.
And my family was a political family. My father had been in prison as a political prisoner. My sister went to prison as a political
Wow.
prisoner. So I saw all that without, wanting to see it. So that
Mm.
really shaped my experiences. But at the same time, I think I might be one of the extreme examples, but I think a lot of this a lot of people, quote unquote normal people, can have a different experiences in their lives. Just, pick up a book, read the book.
Mhm.
If you're watching certain channel, just change it, do something else.
Mm.
If you are not walking, just walk. If you're walking, run. If you're not doing yoga, do yoga. Do
Yeah.
something different in order to uh I think, to be more interesting for yourself. Because
Yeah.
I think one of the scourges of modern life is boredom. And I'm sure you've seen so many people who say that, I'm bored with my life. And when you ask them to tell you about their lives, they're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they know they have these bad habits. They know that they have to do something different. They know
Mm.
that, that play that they always wanted to write, that novel that they always wanted to write, that, painting class that they always wanted to go to is not going to happen. And they've been procrastinating, and they've been delaying their plan. And I just tell them that, just do it.
Just
Don't
yeah.
have to wait for it. You're writing a play. No playwright, wrote a perfect play when they were, 18 years old.
Hmm.
Most of the good filmmakers, they made their best films, after 3 or 4 films, except for few exceptions that, those are exceptions. So just do do whatever you're thinking about doing.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so this is the point where I ask, but I think we've kind of answered it is, if there was one scam in the world of wellness, what would it be? I think you told me it's perfectionism, right?
Yeah, I think that idea that you can have a perfect body or perfect soul, that is something that people who are in fitness industry, and whether it's yoga or gyms, that's what they sell. And also, on the other hand, a lot of religions, a lot of therapists, they sell this idea of perfect soul and perfect mind to you, because I think religion, in its purest form, it can provide you with a set of tools for
Hmm.
your spiritual understanding of yourself, the world around you, and of your creator.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have a certain relationship with your creator, and I think religion, it's in its purest form, it just allows you to be imperfect and pray perfection.
Hmm.
But I think when religion becomes manipulative and it becomes really institutionalized, it's when they are selling you perfection. That's if you join that religion, if you join that cult, if you join that group, you can reach perfection,
Hmm.
whether it is in this world or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or the next.
hereafter. That's you know that is, I think, that perfection, I think, is a real it's overvalued, and I think it's oversold to
Yeah.
millions of billions of people around the world.
Mm.
Yeah.
And lastly, Mazzy, I always like to ask my guests if there's something you love to do just for your wellness that doesn't really have, it's not like a typical wellness thing. It can be anything at all that you makes you feel really good and you wish you'd love to share with the listeners.
Something that I want to do. So, give me some examples of what people have told you before, man.
So, one of my favorite ones was probably Sharu, who said that to beat the Sunday scaries, she would take herself to a karaoke bar and sing
Uh-huh.
karaoke just by herself, just for the
Oh,
joy of it.
all right. Okay. That for wellness.
Well, it can be any for your
Okay.
happy, for your
For
joy.
me, in that case, I don't think that will be wellness, because there will be a lot of rotten eggs and tomatoes thrown at me. So I'm not going to go to a karaoke. Or if the thing is that I think that's a wrong question to ask me,
Oh yeah.
because I would have done whatever I thought would be good for my wellness.
Uh-huh.
So, for example, if I think that I have to go and take a Zumba class, for example, I would go and do it. Or if I thought that, tango would be good for me, I would do it. But in terms of what I would have done, I think I should have started yoga much earlier.
Hmm.
I think that's one thing that I should have done. I should have done much earlier, because I think my body is really in need of more yoga, but I don't have the time, and I think I can cope only with a certain minutes of yoga per day. So I have to, but yeah, I may come up with a clever answer. I will text you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but I
Let me know.
cannot.
I'll add it in the edit.
Yeah, I really, I mean, the thing is that, yeah, and some people, they don't like it, because I just do whatever I feel like I have to do. And I'm not, I'm not someone who's rude or someone who is, say whatever comes to my head. No, but in terms of what I think that's good for me, I try to do that immediately. Yeah.
That's great advice. That's great advice.
Yeah. So yeah. So if I were your friend, who wanted to go to a, karaoke class, why doesn't she go to a karaoke bar? She can do that tonight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I can tell her where to go.
yeah. All
It may
right,
not be
Maz.
the perfect place, but it's a place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Just the next right move. I love that. All right,
Okay.
thank you so much, Mazir. It was an
Well, thank you,
absolute pleasure
El.
to speak with
Nice
you.
doing the podcast with you.
Yeah.
And you're one of my favorite teachers, because of the fact that, you communicate well the ideas of, yoga, you communicate the moves. And I'm really glad that we managed to work together
Mm.
to do those series of yoga classes for Iranians, especially young Iranians who are
Mm.
in prison, who may
Yeah.
not have that much space to practice yoga.
Yep.
And I think your work will be really, really appreciated by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Iranians.
Oh, it was my absolute pleasure. It was a real honor to be asked.
Thank you.